everybody, I am Brink, and I am the Technical Project Manager for Belinda's Closet, and I am here today to talk a little bit more about technical project management roles in general. So some topics we're going to explore today are T-shaped development, Agile, Scrum, Kanban, GitHub issues, story points, retrospectives, parking lot, and how success is defined in this role. So first, we're going to go over T-shaped development. To go over that, I think it'd be best to start with what I-shaped development is, just to give you something to contrast with. I-shape is something that runs deep on fewer topics, has a narrow niche, and basically lacks general knowledge. This is somebody with very specialized knowledge instead, or a team with specialized knowledge, and they can see down a narrow chain of events. However, in contrast, the T-shape, or Fox, is knowledgeable about a lot of different topics. They have a level of breadth that allows them to see the complex interdependencies between topics, and that's really helpful for project planning, as we'll talk about later. You can also see down a wide range of events in comparison to that I-shape. T-shaped people can have a breadth and depth. They can work within a wide range of domains, and within a narrow range of domains, they can also go deep. T-shaped teams have great depth and breadth as well in a wide range of topics. They're more, and that lends them to being more self-sufficient, as well as only restrained by goals, objectives, and plans for the project. And then there's less risk. Team members can fill in for each other because there's a kind of a level of cross training and cross ability. And then they are also not reliant on team experts. They can be experts for themselves. The next thing we want to go over is Agile. Agile is a project management approach that breaks the project down into individual phases and then emphasizes continuous collaboration and improvement. This all actually originated with the Agile Manifesto. I'll quickly direct us to their page. As you can tell, this has been going on for a little bit. About over 20 years now, developers have been following Agile software development, and it all started in the early 2000s with this manifesto. And there are 4 main tenets of the Agile Manifesto, which are as follows: individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. And these 4 tenets really lend themselves well to that word agile. This really empowers development teams to operate in the most efficient but also most collaborative atmosphere possible. And then there's also the software development lifecycle within Agile, which involves planning, executing, evaluation, and tight feedback cycles, which are key to Agile methodology. All right, Scrum. So Scrum helps people and teams deliver value to stakeholders incrementally in a collaborative way. It breaks down work into smaller pieces, which capitalizes on continuous experimentation and continuous feedback. Talking about that tight feedback loop in Agile methodology. This fits in really well. There are 5 key Scrum events. There's the sprint, during which work is done. There's sprint planning, where you plan the work. There's daily Scrum, where you keep everybody apprised of that work every day. And it really is helpful for reporting your progress, but also reporting blockers so you can get help swiftly. There are sprint reviews, where at the end of the sprint, you all review and make sure we're on the same page about what was done during the sprint. And then there was the sprint retrospective, where we talk about what we learned from the previous sprint. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a slide or 2. Finally, there are 3 Scrum artifacts. There's the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and potentially an incremental product release. All right, now for the Kanban. Kanban is a management tool that helps visualize work and maximize efficiency. It's generally broken down into 4 to 5 swim lanes. We're using 5 in our Kanbans. Those 5 are backlog, future, to-do, in progress, and done. All of which are pretty self-explanatory, and they all actually, if you see them on GitHub, like for example, Belinda's Closet, you can see we have descriptions under each Kanban swim lane. So backlog is for things that should have been done during the sprint but are not complete. Issues for future sprints are what future is. To do is the item that hasn't been started. If it's actively being worked on, of course, it's in progress. And finally, done is for things that are completed. And while we're on the subject of Kanbans, there is the no status no-no. Don't let your devs add issues, or yourself, and leave in the no status designation. Fortunately, over the summer, we found out that we can actually automate this with GitHub's workflow. You can find a helpful link to tell you how to do that, how I did it. Now every issue that is created has a to-do status automatically. So that brings us to GitHub issues. Though the project plan itself lives in Smartsheet, the assignments for those tasks will belong in GitHub through GitHub issues. So in the beginning of this quarter, this will not be a thing just yet, but in future sprints, developers will be empowered to add their own GitHub issues, providing they follow the formatting criteria, which will be in the issue template that will pop up automatically when you add an issue, but also lean on the specific project's technical project manager or lead developer for additional direction, just to make sure we all stay on track. All issues should either be divided into two camps, basically. Issues that you feel are necessary for the current sprint and are relevant to the sprint goal, or issues that you think should be at some point in time acknowledged or addressed. Those can be future issues, maybe for even a different quarter, maybe a different sprint, maybe a different iteration of the product itself. So those are just two different kinds of issues that you would submit as a developer. And of course, the professor, BC, the lead developer, and technical program manager set the requirements for developers adding their own issues. Now, part of the issues are story points. You'll find this in the issue template. They will prompt you for them. So, a point is a specified amount of time agreed upon by the development team, product owner, and technical project manager. One way that you can do this is by using Point Poker. There's a lot of different versions of this out on the internet. This is a link to just one of them if you want to check it out. Go, navigate to the slide deck and follow that link. It's basically just a gamified way of estimating how long a user story will take. At this time, a story point is equal to 30 minutes. So an issue with 3 story points will take about 90 minutes. And just a quick note about story point ranges. If it takes you longer than the higher end of the suggestion, many times in the issue, there will be, the amount of story points that are estimated for the issue. It'll say 2 to 3 or 3 to 5 story points, yada yada. So if you feel that your task is taking longer than that higher end of the estimation, please just see leadership about it, about gaining some support. Please do not spin your wheels. We are all a team here. Nobody is alone. Now for retrospectives. So after each sprint, as we said before, there will be a retrospective, and that will take place on Miro, and it's divided into 4 different sections. And I actually wanted to show you one from last summer that we did, just so you can get kind of a visual feel for it. There are actually quite a few versions of this, even on Miro alone. So it won't necessarily look like this, but it will have these 4 main components of continue, stop, invent, and act. And that just helps us know what helped us move forward and we want to keep doing, what held us back that we want to stop doing, what could we do differently next time around, and what should we do next. And with these retrospectives, we want to encourage contributions from the team. It's not necessarily required, but it's great for buy-in, it's great for moving us forward, it's great for collaboration. So please prompt your devs at least a couple times, at least until about 70% of people have responded, just to really get a good retro, because it is really powerful when it's embraced. So another note I wanted to make is that anonymous comments are possible. When I've did retros over the summer, I always let people know that you do not have to sign your comments if you don't feel comfortable. You can if you want to, but with that, I want complete transparency that board owners, such as myself, will be able to view the history. So again, if we go back here, there is a little section here where you can see the board history, and you can see, people responding and whatnot. So there is some anonymity available for people, but they should know that some people will still be able to see what they contributed. Just a little sidebar. And then finally, you want to discuss those results in a weekly team meeting. So you can see in Notion, I actually did a summary as well for people to reference later, alongside the Miro board that I was able to embed here. This is just a way of organizing it. But regardless of that, it's really important to discuss those results in your weekly team meeting following the retrospective, just so we can all make sure we're all sharing that same knowledge. And then there is the parking lot, which is very important to meetings, particularly daily stand-ups. As you may already know, during Scrum, a best practice is to strictly stick to the 4 to 5 required areas about what you did, what you plan, what's blocking, what's on your backlog, and how much time you have to give. Anything beyond that, anytime you're like, well, now that I've got you, I want to talk about that. That's not what Scrum is for. Throughout the meeting, there will be an agenda, and that probably will bring up things you want to discuss. But it's best to make a note of that for yourself and discuss it at the end of the meeting. When we have a communication plan that's editable by all team members, I definitely suggest just adding your points that you want to make to that agenda, just to help prompt everybody to remember that you want to discuss that, including yourself. So at the end of every meeting agenda, you will notice that bullet point for parking lot, and that's what it means. It's for anything else your heart desires to talk about. Just to keep the meeting on plan, to make it as efficient and concise as possible, because a big part of how I feel about meetings is they're extremely useful, but I don't want to overwhelm people with them, and I don't want them to waste time. So parking lot is a great way to obtain those objectives. Finally, how success is defined in this role. Some great ways to achieve success and know that you're succeeding is if you always have a plan and you're always staying 3 steps ahead of the team, that means you're doing well. Keeping an informal plan or schedule can be very helpful for this. This means something that's not even in Smartsheet, something that maybe is in a Google Doc or in a Notion internal doc that you keep to yourself or share with other leadership members as you wish, or even the whole team. But having something informal that is very easy to edit, won't mess with dependencies or critical paths or anything crazy, just a little scratch sheet is very helpful. It's also important to stay on time and under budget if you can. It's not just dollars and cents. You need to know your project's risk, which can equal either time or money or reputation. In our case, money is not as big of a factor, but time and reputation absolutely are. We have a limited amount of time, as we only have this quarter. And reputation, of course we want to have really provide the best reputation we can for ourselves and also the program, because it will absolutely influence the outcomes after we graduate from the program, which is very exciting that we have so much control over that. And then it's very important to achieve buy-in. It can be easy to gain, especially earlier on when people are new to something and they're really excited and jazzed. It's like the first day of school. For me, when I was growing up, the first day of school was always super exciting, but by the end, you were excited for summer too. So it's a lot more difficult to maintain. You must put in the work and constantly nurture and constantly be aware of your team members' needs and buy-in. Constantly evaluate that, check in with people, and yeah, that maintenance piece is definitely more difficult than just getting it to begin with. And then finally, you want to make sure you're researching the role in an effort to continue improving and building upon the desired skill set. This, I think, also helps with that aforementioned buy-in. It helps team members see that you are trying to bring your fullest to the role as well. You're also learning, you're also part of this. And honestly, this is part of what makes the role more fun for me personally, is doing that constant self-education and finding new things to bring to the team and support them. And that's actually it. So thank you so much for sitting around and listening to this video. I hope it helped you with the role, or helped you understand the role if you're not necessarily interested in taking it on. And thanks again for being a part of these projects. I'm really excited to work with everybody.